Good evening, colleagues. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We apologize for the technical difficulties that we've encountered. I think the reason why we are also having this conversation this evening is so that we put an end to such technical difficulties and shortcomings that we continue to experience. My name is Alwani Chogwe, and I am the spokesperson of the National Youth ICT Council. I would like to warmly welcome you to the Youth Artificial Intelligence webinar under the theme The Future of Work, AI's Impact on Skills Development, Jobs, and Opportunities for Entrepreneurship in Africa. And as you would be aware, colleagues, we have a number of speakers, all industry leaders in the various sectors, also across the globe, with an understanding that the advent of artificial intelligence present a transformative opportunity for Africa, particularly for its youth. So, as the National Youth ICT Council, because we do recognize the potential of AI to drive economic growth, enhance educational outcomes, and foster innovation, we have taken this step to say we need to have an integrated approach in ensuring that we directly address the shortcomings that we face in Africa and why we continue to play a spectator role. Hi, colleagues, am I audible?
You're audible now.
Oh, I thought I was audible all along. Apologies. Good evening, colleagues. My name is Aluwani Chokwe. I am the spokesperson of the National Youth ICT Council. I would like to warmly welcome all of you to our webinar with a theme on the future of work, AI's impact on skills development, jobs, and opportunities for entrepreneurship in Africa. We do this because we understand that the advent of artificial intelligence presents a transformative opportunity for Africa, particularly for its youth. As the National Youth ICT Council, we also recognize the potential of artificial intelligence to drive economic growth, enhance educational outcomes, and foster innovation. And we also recognize that we need to have an integrated approach, particularly because South Africa has played a spectator role in the epochs of all industrial revolutions. Hence, why you would see that our distinguished panel of speakers today come from various backgrounds and various continents across the globe. And they also have the various perspectives that will surely enrich the conversation on AI and how we can collectively ensure that Africa plays a global role also in the artificial intelligence sector and the fourth industrial revolution overall. We understand that a continent like Africa has a youthful demographic, and artificial intelligence should then be leveraged to address significant socioeconomic challenges such as unemployment, the skills gap, the inequality, and all these other problems that we continue to encounter. Not only do we want to be a global source of tech talent as Africa, but we are also concerting all efforts towards ensuring that nobody is left behind through unpacking the definitions of AI, the applications of AI, and the opportunities for young people to upskill themselves and create globally competitive startups. Colleagues, today we will be looking into how we can harness the power of AI to empower the African youth. This would then also speak to the opportunities and the challenges in the digital age. Without any further ado, colleagues, I would like to give the platform to Ms. Juanita Clark. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Digital Council Africa. They've also been doing outstanding work in ensuring that we do not leave anybody behind. Ms. Clark?
Thank you, Alu. And thank you for the invitation to speak to you tonight. It's really a big privilege. I've got a very big heart for our young people. And, you know, not just me, I know so many people of my age that have got a deep passion and a deep love for our young people. And of course, we're also concerned about youth unemployment. There's so many young people that are hopeless and despondent, and you know, I think we have to work together to change that. And I honestly think that technology has the power to change lives and to change it for the better. And for that reason, I've dedicated 15 years of my adult life and my working life to work with government and with industry, to bring broadband to every single person. And we literally, as you just mentioned, Alo, we literally live by hashtag leave no one behind. So every single conversation we have with government, all the work that we do is about how do we bring every single young person online and give them equal opportunities to this phenomenal power that is the internet, and that is the whole online system, out of which AI and all of these phenomenal technologies have come forward. But first, I also want to just say congratulations on the remarkable work that you guys do. I fully appreciate the work and working for a not-for-profit, how hard it is, and very often a thankless job, you know, that doesn't often receive a lot of recognition. But we're not here to discuss that. I think we all know and agree that artificial intelligence is going to affect a lot of jobs in the coming years. And AI and, you know, the buzzword of the moment, and it seems to be owning all the headlines. You know, everybody's talking about AI. There's a lot of people that really get it and understand it. There's a lot of people that think that the bots are coming. You know, we've got to like brace ourselves. You know, they're coming for us. But I think what is clear is, you know, those that are resisting this whole movement, and rather than jumping in and riding this wave, will not be doing themselves any favors. You know, it's and we've certainly seen that, you know, in the early days of doing advocacy work around fiber optic infrastructure. There were those that were saying, oh, this is Africa, we don't need this, this is a first world technology. And today, you know, everybody wants a fiber connection. You know, it's the demand for fiber connectivity is phenomenal. And similarly, we know that once we get through the naysayers and we can break through you know, the doom prophets, that people will embrace AI, and that they will start understanding the exponential power that AI will bring humanity. I always say to my team that we must never forget, we must always remember that technology is there to serve humans, not the other way around. We should never be slaves to technology. Technology should be the slave that works for us. Sure, AI will be taking some jobs, but we've got to remember that it's going to create a lot of new ones. The question that we've got to ask ourselves is, are we ready for those new jobs? I think there's going to be job titles that we haven't even heard of today. So it's very important that we read, that we understand, that we have knowledge, that we know where this is going, and that we embrace the technology and what it has to offer. I think the potential of AI is endless possibilities, and the applications will simplify our lives. I see somebody's typing that they cannot hear. I don't know if I should pause for a second, or if everyone else can hear me.
You're audible.
You are
Thank
very
you.
audible.
Oh, great. So I think this time round it's that young person. Thank you, Kim. You know, there's a line of thinking that suggests that the transformative impact of AI on our society will have far-reaching economic, legal, political, regulatory implications. I don't know, you guys followed social media, during, the elections in South Africa, and then of course now it's the elections in the US. And I mean, technology is just this immensely powerful tool that this generation has got. We didn't have that when we were young people. When we were advocating for change, when we were fighting and arguing for things, we literally made pamphlets, had them printed, had them distributed. We had to speak to people in person. The power of technology has changed so exponentially, and it's up to this generation, these young people on this call, to harness that and to change it. As Africans, we cannot be left behind. There's going to be tremendous changes in society, enhanced productivity, improved health care, increased access to education, and that is so critically important. Anybody that knows me knows that I bang the drum of remote education on an ongoing basis. We have to bring young people in rural communities or young people that cannot afford travel and accommodation online and give them access to the same experience as those that have the privilege of being in classrooms. No doubt, AI-powered technologies will also help solve complex problems and make our daily lives easier and more convenient. Tonight, we'll be focusing on how AI is going to impact you, our young people, and your future. Thankfully, we're talking to a generation tonight that's not afraid of technology. We grew up with green screens and brick phones and all sorts of technology where we literally lived in fear of this, thinking that we're going to break it. And the first thing you learned was the back button. Where can I press back? Or undo? Where's the undo button? But you guys have got fearlessness. You embrace technology. You're not scared of pushing a button. In fact, you use the full extent of technology, where we only do a couple of buttons. You guys really get what this can do. So as you use the internet and social media to connect, to comment, to discuss things with others, to network socially, I urge you to do that in a responsible manner. I urge you to share that knowledge and what you've got and what you've learned with other people and help bring them into this fold that you are in. Not everybody, even amongst young people, are a technologist. Clearly, the ones on this forum tonight are deeply interested in what artificial intelligence and greater technology can mean. So, the very power of this technology should be harnessed by all Africans. We should be leading the race. We should be showing the rest of the world how we can do this. But I also wish that we will develop African solutions for African problems and not rely on solutions from other parts of the world to help solve our very unique problems. I am so grateful that I get to dedicate my life to bring people online. I literally wake up every day, argue the point, find mechanism to reach more and more communities in outlying and underserviced areas. Every day there are more and more people that have access to the remarkable possibilities that the internet offers. Just like simple connectivity, which is probably the most basic component of technology, I urge you to continue to make the circle bigger. Reach as many young people as you can. Teach them, share your knowledge. and let's all work together to make sure that we leave no one behind. So I'm just going to wrap up now and wish you the very, very best for this evening. You've got a great lineup of speakers, and make use of this opportunity, listen and learn, but also make use of the chat to to lift out your viewpoints, to share your knowledge, to share your experience, to say what you're afraid of. Be courageous and use this platform this evening to harness all the knowledge that's going to be shared. I wish you a very wonderful engagement, and ask that you see this platform as a free space and a safe space. And please post your comments in the chat and your views. This evening is here for all of you, and I wish you a very wonderful evening of learning and sharing. Thank you so much again for having me. I really appreciate the invitation, and I wish you a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clark. You've said a mouthful. In fact, I'm so motivated right now to take over the world. Thank you. And I do share in with your sentiment. I'm not sure if I'm audible, colleagues. Okay, thank you so much. A special thank you and a warm, warm, warm thank you to Ms. Janita Clark. She said a mouthful, and I'm very motivated to ensure that no one gets left behind as well. And an important factor that she made mention of is us not leaving rural South Africa behind. And this is also a call that the National Youth ICT Council has made, particularly to the Department of Education, that has now approved the amendment to include coding and robotics in the South African schools curriculum. So definitely thank you so much for that. And I also agree that we need to use African solutions to African problems. So I know that with the introduction of the coding and the robotics program, these young people would be able to best find innovative solutions and technological solutions to address whatever challenges that they have in their various communities. I know that we've had a number of hackathons that speak to how we address whatever challenges it is. In fact, the last one that we had was inspired by the explosion at Bree in Johannesburg, whereby we put a group of young people in a room to say, this happened in Johannesburg. What technological advances or devices or components can we put together to ensure that there's monitoring mechanisms in local government, as it is the nerve center of service delivery? So definitely, Mr. Anita, we will continue to advocate for that. And we also thank you for the contribution that you continue to make. Colleagues will now move to the panel discussion that will be led by Mr. Sipho Mahua. He's a lecturer, a data science expert, and a provincial champion of the National Youth ICT Council in the Free State. So I'm not going to say much because the panel is full of people who are distinguished in their various careers, illustrious as well, and on a global platform as well. So I'm going to give it over to Mr. Sipho Mahua. Thank you, colleagues. Mr. Mahua is about to join us. So he's also quite a villager that only started interfacing with the fourth industrial revolution when he got to tertiary. So he first interfaced with a computer in tertiary. You would understand how much of a challenge it was. But now he's gotten up to the ranks and also knows how to use devices. And the good thing about him now being able to use these devices is that he has even taken his community along with him. He should be joining shortly. It seems he still has challenges. So, colleagues, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to give the platform to the panelists to introduce themselves. So, we are going to start with Mr. Isa. They will introduce themselves and they're going to speak about what they do. And then, as soon as Sipo is back, and then we'll start with the panel discussion. So, Isa, can you please start, introduce yourself, and tell us what you do? And he will be followed by Kuma and followed by Ruth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me very well. My name is
Yes.
Isa Mutlib. My name is Isa Mutlib. I am the founder of the AI Skills Academy, based here in London. As anybody can attest to, the world of AI is changing in many cases, and one of the reasons why I entered it was because many people are unaware of the impact AI will have on the future of work. So that's why I set up the AI Work and Skills Forum, really to kind of start bringing together people from various backgrounds, various industries, to really understand the impact AI will have upon them. And then, importantly, we've got the academy, which will be there to train talent up, train people up in AI skills. And we want to use this opportunity to um, harness some of the skills, harness some of the opportunities that AI can have on the future of work and skills. I will discuss more about this in the discussion, and I look forward to hearing more from the other panelists as well.
Thank you so much, Isa. We apologize that the London and the South African times are not as standard to you, but thank you so much for availing yourself. Now we will hear from Mr. Kuma, who will tell us more about the work that they do. Okay, Mr. Sipo has joined us, so he will also continue with the introductions of our panelists and also more on what they do, and then we will kick off with the next section being the panel discussion. Mr. Sipo, I think you can take it from here. Thank you, colleagues.
Okay, thank you very much, Alu, for that warm welcome and presentation. The technical side of things have been quite a challenge, but hopefully going forward, we will not have any more of the problems. As you were already presenting our presenters for the night, or rather giving them the platform to continue in telling us more about themselves, as well as the various entities that they represent tonight. I would like to move on now to, I think it's Mr. Kuma Memela, who was supposed to follow. Then from there, we have Ms. Ruth Mwamba. As we've already had a presentation from Mr. Isa, I think it's Mohammed. I'm not sure if Mr. Isa Mutlib has presented. No. Mr. Mutlib has presented, so it's Mr. Isa Mohammed who will then follow. If we can just have 1 minute introductions of each panelist, where they come from, what they do, then we can get to the meat of the program.
Good day, Mr. Mahal. Am I audible on your end?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, man. Thank you very much for the platform. I think first and foremost, I want to say good evening to the viewers at home. Thank you for everyone who's taken time out to come and listen to this informative session. Truly, truly appreciate it as we further this work of educating the public about artificial intelligence. Right. So my name is Mr. Kuma Memela. I'm the co-founder at Gambu.com. We are essentially building a platform that is going to be a safe haven for the professionals that are going to be displaced by the loss of jobs that are going to be a consequence of artificial intelligence. So we understand at Gambu that these jobs that are going to be replaced by artificial intelligence are not necessarily going to be obsolete. It's just that these jobs are going to change, and those professionals are going to be able to transition and maybe provide work for themselves and provide those services to small businesses as opposed to corporates, which might have automated their job functions. So essentially what we are doing is providing a safe haven for those professionals who are going to be displaced. But also at the same time, we want to attack the high unemployment that is prevalent on the African continent by providing Africans a platform where they can leave university and go personal brand themselves and be able to provide work for themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mhlegazi. I can hear that the accent is taking me all the way to the Eastern Cape, Western Cape region.
Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Ruth Wambua, I think I mistook your surname, mispronounced that. I apologize for that. Are you here with us? Can we hear from you?
All right. Good evening, everybody. Can you confirm that you can hear me? All right. Okay. So my name is Ruth Wambua, coming all the way from Kenya, currently and presently working for the University of Nairobi. This is an academic institution where we are engaged in the ICT section, and this is to support all the functions of the university in terms of technology and also instruction in the area of information systems and technology, where among the key aspects is the emerging technologies where AI stands out big. Within the institution, we also run a lab. We call it ICT4D lab. And in this lab, it's actually an incubation lab where we have students just get hands-on experience. We also help them with their startups. And all this is around the areas of information systems and technology where AI is big. As we continue to discuss, we shall see maybe some of the aspects and maybe products that have come up out of the engagements of students and also from the industry in Kenya and around the world also. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wambua. Did I pronounce it correctly, or do I still need to move to North Africa to learn the pronunciation?
You're doing good.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
From Tanzania, all the way from Tanzania, formerly known as Tanganyika, if I'm not mistaken, from the community manager of the Tanzania AI community, Mr. Isa Mohammed Ali. Am I also pronouncing your name correctly? I see it's Mohammed Ali. If you're here, can you please announce yourself so that we can hear from you as well?
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear
Great. You. Okay, so it's gonna be fun having two Isas here. So we'll need some way to demarcate which one is which. So I'm from Tanzania. Yes, formerly Tanganyika before the reunion with our neighbors Zanzibar, who I have a feeling more people might be familiar with. We run an organization called the Tanzania AI Community, and in essence, it's a community of practice. It's looking at how do we support and bring people together to build the overall AI ecosystem, and working on everything from policy development to capacity building to applied research, and finding that melting pot where we build the entire pipeline and ecosystem. Most recently, we worked with Nigeria on their national AI policy. Don't ask me where that document disappeared to, because politics. After that, we've been working with Tanzania on their national AI strategy and guidelines. And we've been working on developing a few products in the healthcare space and the education space to support both community health workers and teachers. And largely, we work with our local community, which, with Tanzania being almost 70% youth, is naturally a youth-based population.
Thank you very much for those wonderful introductions. I think now we can get to the parliamentary, I almost said debate, because in South Africa, currently the most important thing has been parliamentary debate. But I think the United Kingdom is also going through a bit of that as well. I'm not sure about Kenya and Tanzania, if you're also facing, well, I wouldn't say challenges, but the same interesting times that the United Kingdom as well as South Africa are facing. But to the meat of things, I noticed that a majority of your respective entities come from different communities, and this therefore means that you're also representing different demographics. Can you please just give us an idea as to how important is artificial intelligence in your respective communities? What have you up to this point implemented? And how is the reception of the concept of AI? Because I think majority of us see AI as your ChatGPTs and Bard AI, and only those are the ones that have been presented to us at the moment. So how is the reception at the current moment of different programs and projects on artificial intelligence from your different backgrounds and respective communities? I'll start with Umhlegazi Memel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohau. Unfortunately, I'm a lone wolf. Unlike the other speakers on this panel, I'm not part of any community, which is something that I look forward to. But it is my concern that South Africa has been lagging in terms of artificial intelligence and contributing to its developments. So as Ms. Joannette had stated when she first spoke, is that South Africa has really played a spectator role. And I think that the rest of the African continent, this is the case. So in as much as I'm not part of any communities at this stage, I think it is my duty to go find those communities, and if they don't exist, to form part of that community so that we can move towards generating policy, and not just adopt policy that is westernized, but to make sure that we develop AI solutions that speak to South African problems, and to develop AI policy that speaks to South African issues. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mhlegazi. On that point, Mr. Mutlib, being from the UK, I know from my time over there, you are quite developed. How are you finding the acceptance and the use of artificial intelligence? And perhaps we can learn some ideas from you that we can apply in Mr. Memela's situation.
Sure. I think first it's worth noting that whilst the UK has had some very big successes in AI regarding some startups, so for example, the likes of DeepMind was born in the UK, the likes of Stability AI, and a few of these big startups, they are very big startups which are small in a wider adoption. So the adoption of AI should not necessarily be represented by the number of companies that have, the bigger, larger, multi-billion man companies that have been started here, simply because every day, every individual uses artificial intelligence or AI in a different way. What's fascinating about the UK is that on the front, it may look like we're far. There is still a very, very, very long way that we as a nation need to go. And a large proportion of that, kind of where my background falls in, is regarding the skill side of it. That there are I would say a large portion of the nation are using artificial intelligence at its most basics form, which is just a prompt into ChatGPT or Claude or whichever model you'd like to use. That said, there is mechanisms being put in place to ensure that more people are accessing the tools. And I think the word that I want to use again is the word access, because more people need to get access to it for the country to get benefit out of it. So I think there is a long way to go. We've had a strategy since 2017, and that's been around sort of general AI, but with sort of the Gen AI that's coming now, the whole playing field has changed, and in effect, more people can get access to it if they do have access to the tools. And it's a responsibility upon government, it's a responsibility upon local and national key stakeholders and organizations like myself to ensure that more people have access to the tools and resources that AI can bring.
Thank you. I like the point that you raised on different stakeholders that have to participate in bringing artificial intelligence and ICT in general, information and communications technology, to the fore. And I think to you, Ms. Wambua, working from a university specifically, how do educational institutions factor into this? Because looking at some stats from your country specifically, I mean, the UNESCO report from 2022 highlighted that only 35%, I think, of STEM students in higher education globally were women specifically, and only about 3 to 5% of them were interested in artificial intelligence or ICT in general. So how do we integrate institutions of higher learning in this? What contribution do they make in this, in bringing AI into our communities, but not only bringing it, making sure that it becomes part of our core, I would say, language, as well as our daily bread, so to speak?
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, I work for the University of Nairobi, and I also collaborate very greatly with the United States International University in Africa. It's also based in Nairobi. So generally, we deal and interact so much so with the young generation in the country. I just saw in the chat not long ago, somebody write that in Kenya, we are fixing the nation. So that's a Kenyan right there. That's a youth that we are fixing the nation, not only in the aspects of politics, but also in terms of technology. When you come to the front of education and academia, we have, yes, the technical courses very well ingrained in the curriculum. Whereby you'll find that the curriculum and the programs that are being taught are all the time getting revised to align not only with the government requirements, not only with the current and the market status, but also to align really with the current situation in terms of employability, and also to ensure that we churn individuals who not only are looking out to be employed, but can employ themselves. And much to do with technology. For example, when I talked about that in the University of Nairobi, we have an ICT for Deal lab. This lab, when it was starting up, it started with a focus to the computer science students. But with time, there has been interest even to people who are doing even sociology, because somebody has an idea, but they're doing a social course, but they have an idea which shared and implemented technically is really impactful to the society. So with time, the hub and this lab opened up to any student. And it's been very impressive, because with time we have now several labs within the country, that are opening up. A good example, we have Strathmore University, which offers workshops and even courses aligning to AI and emerging technologies. And we've had a lot of presentations and also programs coming in terms of data science, just to align and ensure that people and students are able to do projects that are beneficial to the society. A good example also, we have also industry also collaborating with universities to ensure that the students that are graduating with these degrees are also employable, in the sense that you get out with a degree, but you can work, you can apply this technology that you've learned over the time. And a good example, we have Microsoft working with the universities in the country and even Huawei, whereby these industries come to the universities and set up academies. And in these academies, they offer short courses. And these courses, most of the time, they are technical courses that are geared to have the students being able to do projects that not only help the universities, but the society at large. And I think that has been one of the key things that has really helped even the society to have so many people who are not really running for the white collar jobs, but they're able to do work on their own produced products and be able to actually do outputs that are helpful to the society and to the country as well. And we could go on and on in terms of the examples, but that is one of the key things in terms of academy and in terms of instruction, whereby now these emerging technologies are really very key into the curriculum and also into how the students really are engaged.
Thank you for that, because I think sometimes one of the things that, especially from a South African perspective, we don't really take into consideration is the alignment with the curriculum as well. We only focus on market requirements, but we don't try to align or get our curriculum to assimilate to what the market requirements need. But that's a great lesson, I think, from Nairobi. And now, Mr. Mohammed, I'm saving you for this one because as of 2023, I think at this current moment, Tanzania has about 46%, if not 53%, of internet preparation, within which I saw that looking at the package that Tanzania has, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and a number of other ICT-based programs are going to be rolled out into different communities so that you can capacitate young people, specifically also looking at women. So from your side, what do you think Tanzania is doing differently to a point where you were standing at 46% in 2023, now at about 53, 54%, that perhaps the rest of the African continent has not yet done in terms of artificial intelligence introduction, as well as ICT in general?
So when it comes to backbone connectivity, that's an issue that Tanzania takes very seriously. The backbone connectivity is a conversation that's been ongoing for quite some time, and with Tanzania being strategically placed in both the SADC and the EAC, it's something that they've been taking quite seriously. And also when we recently had the fiber outage issues, the unintentional holiday for everyone because we couldn't work online anymore, the impact of it was very prevalent and really put out the question on people's minds that, hey, if this ever happens again, what's the impact that's happening to our economies? Significantly, East Africa's economy is starting to be driven by digital. And what's worse is there aren't independent platforms. We're leveraging platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. Famously, when there was the Facebook outage a couple of years ago, it was a significant impact on the economy as well, because large portions of our digital economy paused purely because people couldn't go on Instagram and shop anymore, or WhatsApp or such. So it's something that Tanzania has been taking very seriously. When it comes to artificial intelligence, that is kind of an icing on top. I would say that now in 2024 is when they're taking it a lot more seriously. Previously, it was just added as like oh, by the way, this is kind of happening, so we'll put it as a reference in our documentation, but there was no actionable plans to any of it. If you look at our FYDP 3, I believe, there's mention of artificial intelligence. There's no mention of how is it going to be actionized, what is actually going to be done with it. So it's an addition. But what that means is because of our focus and investment on the fiber backbone, as there is more interest and investment in these technologies now, because Tanzania is currently working on its national AI strategy and guidelines under the Ministry of ICT. Other ministries are working on their own implementation guidelines in specific sector-focused areas, in which we are supporting all of these. But as these come up, that investment that has been done in the backbone is going to be very significant. So perhaps it was not intentional, perhaps there was someone there with the foresight for it. Either way, that investment is going to be very significant for us going forward. So that's kind of what the situation is looking like. Of course, we will always be compared with our neighbors in Kenya. It doesn't help that big tech is throwing a lot of money into Kenya and Nairobi. So we'll have to see how that development goes on. What I'm looking forward to is, it seems there has been a lot of discussions between the Tanzanian and Kenyan government in reference to partnerships and collaborations and such. But we have yet to find ways that the individuals and the communities really take advantage of this. What can we do to cement these relationships and bonds that we have with our neighboring countries, to really say that, hey, we can cross-pollinate. There are certain areas that Tanzania might have more data in, more opportunity in, and with a similarity in our ecosystems, are there places where we can work together very strongly? And I think that's a very interesting next step to explore.
Thank you for that. And speaking of areas where we can cross-pollinate and partner, how do we make sure, as I would use the term service providers, but as innovators, let's go with the term innovators. How do we make sure that especially young people on the African continent, and I would say for a first world country like the United Kingdom, I always mix them up, Britain, United Kingdom, same WhatsApp group to me. How do we make sure that young people aptly benefit from this? What advice would you give a young person such as myself, especially as it relates to information and communications technology in general, on how I can benefit from it, both from an entrepreneurial perspective as well as an individualistic perspective? This will be the last question that I have, and then we're going to go over to the questions, because I see that the chat is they're very busy there. It's not WhatsApp, guys, it's Teams, and Bill Gates is watching. But how do we make sure that young people benefit from this? What advice do you give us, especially looking at the world of business, which is growing, which is quickly becoming more and more technological in nature, as well as just as an individual? Let's start with Mr. Mutlip.
Yeah. So very interesting question. Firstly, I want the United Kingdom, although it has the United Kingdom as its name, has very unfortunately for the past 7 to 9 years failed its young people. Child poverty is at the highest in the UK right now, and we are going through some very dire situation amongst young people. In terms of even malnutrition, words we've never heard in the UK, so that are impacting things. So there's been a lot of underinvestment in young people services, crime rising, etc., etc. That said, there's opportunity. We've just had a new government. There's an opportunity for hope, and there's an opportunity to kind of move forward with the future for young people. Now, coming back to your original question, what can be learned? I think if you were to look at one of the most important assets that at least sub-Saharan Africa has, is that around, I think the latest UN figures show that 60 to 70% of sub-Saharan Africa is young people under the age of 30. Now, imagine that 70% of the nation currently will represent what the future will look like in 10 to 15 years. That's an incredible opportunity there. And those individuals there, you've got to really get them digitally native, digitally skilled, digitally ready, so that when they do embrace AI skills, they embrace it for the future of work and the future of skills that are needed within the nation. Also important to remember is that whilst we can learn from other nations, Africa and the African nations are very unique in their own respect. They have their own cultures, their own ways of thinking, and it's about understanding how building a strategy around the needs of Africa. Whereas, for example, if you look at countries like Ethiopia, where they have financial hubs, etc., then it's around building around the industries that are thriving now and that will thrive in 10 to 15 years time, that you build jobs around, you build opportunities around, you build access around. Remember, AI is the accelerator. The new the modern version of AI is an accelerator and will accelerate the way people learn, access new opportunities, access new jobs, and access the new jobs that are going to be out there as well.
Yes. Mshekazi Memela.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahao. I think I just want to touch on two things before we head over to the questions. The first thing, I think, from an African perspective, right? We have an education problem here in South Africa, particularly with literacy, particularly with math and science. Now, and part of the reason why we have that is the language barrier. These subjects, these STEM subjects, are not taught in our mother tongues. Now, one of the benefits that comes with artificial intelligence is the ability to translate these subjects into our own languages, so that we can sort of lessen that gap and further prove that intelligence, the ability to speak English is not a measure of intelligence, but our young people suffer from a lack of understanding. And then from an entrepreneurial perspective, I think one area that has really excited me is the potential role of artificial intelligence, particularly in the informal and micro economy. I'm currently doing my master's with a particular, zooming in particular into spaza shops, and this is a sector that is largely financially excluded. Now, with artificial intelligence, we can use other ways to ensure that we check the credit scores of these micro entities and provide ways of providing personalized banking so that we can onboard them to the formal economy so that they can also grow and further provide better jobs. So I think that's one area that really excites me. And I think the fintech companies have spearheaded that as opposed to the banks. And the banks are only coming now and they're only realizing now that the informal economy is really worth investing in. So yeah, thank you very much.
The banks are always late. Mr. Mohammed? Issa, can you hear me, or did Bill Gates do me dirty again?
No, I can hear you. I'm just not used to being called Mr. Mohammed.
Yes, you may proceed.
Sure. Could you just rephrase that last part that you'd like me to comment on?
Yes, just looking at young people, especially on the African continent. I mean, statistics show that about 12 million young people by 2030 could be involved in ICT-based jobs, specifically looking at AI. So what advice can you give us in terms of the entrepreneurial side as well as the individual side on how we can get involved?
How much time do I have? Because I could do a whole monologue on this.
I'll give you a minute.
I have a few spicy thoughts. First, everyone says Africa's advantage is our youth. That is only true if our youth gets skilled. Our youth are not skilled. There are certain countries you will go to that are more developed than others. Kenya is a good example. But even then, when you look at the level of youth who are able to build at an enterprise level, and that's the key idea, an enterprise level, because we're not with the goal of building for our tiny group of people, our neighbors. We want to build continentally. We want to build globally. We don't want to build to just be like, no, this is now our little garden that we are building for. No, we want to be able to build at a level that can build globally. So the only advantage that we're going to get with youth is if they are skilled, and not like normal skilled, highly skilled youth who are able to do that. But where do they get the experience of being able to build at an enterprise level? You're not getting it in our countries. How many companies do we have in our countries that build at enterprise levels? In Kenya, in Tanzania, in East Africa, in North Africa, the number of companies that build beyond their country that you can call multinationals are very few. So we need to be able to look for more of these opportunities to work with companies that build that enterprise so that you can get the skill for it.
Yes.
Research has shown that the most successful founders are typically, I believe it was in their 40s. Why are people in their 40s and 50s the most successful entrepreneurs? Because they have skill, they have domain expertise, they have the networks, they understand how that market works, they understand the pain points. Africa is facing a problem of young first-time founders. I got out of university, I don't have a job, let me start a business. That's the train of thought. There is no, what else can I do to get my skill? What else can I do to build opportunity? Yes, we understand that circumstances are limited, causing this effect to happen. Valid, understood, yes. But it's not healthy for our entrepreneurship ecosystem when VC firms or investors come here, they're looking at the startups, and all the startups are young founders, don't have experience, don't have the necessary leverage to be able to bring in deals, to bring in business. And then these are the types of companies we're expecting investors to get involved in. No, the risk is too high. We need founders who have some level of experience. So, of course, it's a difficult problem to solve, but in some ways, as much as we are trying to avoid brain drain issues, it's a valid problem that we have. But if we don't send our youth to work with these international organizations, with these international companies, how will they get the experience to come back and build better? How will they get the experience necessary to do that? At least we've reached an age of remote work. They can stay in the local community, work remotely for international organizations, build some of those connections and networks, and then be able to still contribute back to the local ecosystem. If you know someone that's working for Microsoft, a Google, a Meta, or any freelance company, really, forget about the big tech names, they can still contribute back to the local ecosystems. Because honestly, some of our best devs are not working for African companies. They're working for American or European companies. They're not building local products. But one day, a time will come where they will come back. Not all of them, yes, but some of them will come back with the financing, with the knowledge, with the skills. $10,000 in the US is very different purchasing power compared to $10,000 in Kenya or Tanzania or Rwanda. 10K can easily survive someone here for an entire year. Take 10K to the US, you're barely surviving a few months, or to the UK or wherever. It's a very different dynamic. And we really need to look at what is that pipeline of talent that we can give them the skills necessary. And part of that conversation is self-directed learning. We need to encourage our youth to build the skills themselves and be able to do the projects themselves. There was a comment here in the chat recently about someone being discouraged because of the lack of projects that they're happening in their university and such. And for us, it's like, okay, if your institution isn't giving you the projects, go out into the market and find a project. Find a problem someone is having and just be like, hey, let me try and build that for you. And if it works out, if I can build something that gives you more revenue, gives you more something, give me 0.5% of the revenue. So no condition for upfront payment, but let's sign an agreement or something that says, I will build it for you for free. If it works, you pay me 0.5% of the revenue. Something very simple, very easy. It's a win-win situation for everyone. But we need our youth to be able to go out there. I will stop my monologue.
Thank you for the monologue. I'm looking at the time as well. Can we close off with Ms. Wambua, 30 seconds? Kenya has been mentioned a number of times. What is it that Kenya is doing differently that has us speaking so wonderfully about it so that we can move on to the next session?
Thank you very much. I'll start by saying that we are already living in the future. You know, that future that we are dreaming of, we are already living in it. Whereby we have the various generations. You know, currently we are talking about of Gen Z interaction in the country. But that notwithstanding, we have all the generations being curious on what technology can do. Very young children have phones. You look at a phone and you look at the applications that are in that phone, and curiosity drives you to want to know what's really moving this application. I'm able to do this and this. There's a lot of content creation among the youth. You know, you see somebody in the content creation space, they're writing content, but it's not them that are writing. A lot of AI is being used to facilitate, you know, the captioning, even taking images and putting images in the space, you know, and social media has been a driver. You'll realize that children of all ages have interaction with technology in one way or another. So with time, creating a lot of curiosity, you find very young ones wanting to know, you know, how is this working? And that is what is helping even the academia, you know, from a university angle, is that you receive individuals who've already gone through that curious space. And then we have these programs already incorporated in academia. One thing that I appreciate in the country, and this is in Kenya, is that most of the, other than the program that you go to a university to study, there are common courses. And among these common courses, actually, if you look around, for the people who are here and you're in Kenya, if you look around in the universities, most of the common courses, we have a technical course that is being taught. And the reason for this is just to enhance that curiosity. So we have programs, the undergraduate program is for 4 years. By the time you're done with these 4 years, you will have somehow identified that technical space that you can push for. And we have all these industry players coming into the university wanting to collaborate and introduce certifications. And they do not close it for technical courses. It's open for everybody. So regardless of the program that you came to the university to do, when these companies come in and they introduce these programs, anyone is taking them. So you'll find somebody who's done economics as their first degree, graduating, and they have a certification in AI, for example, a certification in IoT, for example. They went to the university not to do a technical course, but they're already equipped with that technical knowledge. So with time, yes, these are the people, actually most of the things that we are seeing, a lot of startups are not really by technical students per se, people who went to the university to do computer science. No, some are even done by people who went to study languages. And we are really grateful. You know, this is what is helping the country, the economy, and so much more. Then we also have a lot of hubs within Nairobi. We have the Nairobi hub, iHub. These are hubs, and these are technical hubs. And the good thing with them is that they open up for any individual who is interested. So it's about the interest. Yes. So if you have the interest, you are trainable. And you can be trained to do whatever it is that someone else is doing that actually maybe had the grades to do a technical course. So I think that's really a plus for the country and a plus for the youth. And everybody who is here, it's about that curious mind. Please develop a curious mind because the future is here. We're already living in that future, and you cannot avoid this technology. Even in that phone of yours, the phone that you have, when you look at all those apps, you know, we have even a lot of the Kenyan students developing apps and causing us to, you know, to download them in our phones, and some are making money out of those apps. So that's already an angle of entrepreneurship using technology, and AI is fueling it. And when you come now to the government angle, you know, we had Kenya starting up, they called it, it was more or less a hub. It was like a task force. And this task force has been put up by the government. It was a task force to really, because they realized that, yes, technology is here to stay. So even the government has to leverage technology and ensure that most of our services are on the technology. So we had even the president, the current president, pushing that we do, all our services are pegged into a platform. This platform was online. This platform, you know, it's an e-citizen platform. This is to mean that, and who are doing these things? It's the youth. Majority are the youth. You go create a product, you can present it.
Apologies, we ran over time.
All right.
I have to apologize to my panelists because we started a little bit after our designated time. I'm gonna hand over to Alu so that we can proceed with the next part of our session. Thank you very much to the panelists, and I think that this conversation will continue on a different time, a different day. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more time, and teams will also cooperate so that we don't find ourselves in this current situation. Thank you very much. Alu, over to you.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for that insightful panel discussion. I would like to implore all of you to also share your contact details on the group chat, so that we also know that we are creating a global network, not just like a global interactive platform. And going forward, I would want us to also have this forum whereby we benchmark the work that we do in our different countries. You are also welcome to also continue asking the questions in the chat room. So now we are going to have a keynote address that will be rendered by Professor Chilidzi Marwala. He's the rector of the University of the United Nations University and the Under Secretary General of the United Nations. So he will give us the address. But I encourage colleagues to essentially continue giving their views, their perspectives on the chat. Let's make each other better. Let's see what areas we can collaborate in our various industries and sectors that we exist in. So now we'll have the keynote address by the professor. Thank you.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Sanibonani, Dumelang, Dubalabudi. My name is Professor Chilidzi Marwala. I am Director of the United Nations University, as well as the Under-Secretary General of the United Nations, and I'm based in Tokyo, Japan. Previously, I was the Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, where I positioned the University of Johannesburg as the university that drives the fourth industrial revolution. In summary, the most important technology of the fourth industrial revolution is actually artificial intelligence. And of course, during my career as an AI engineer, who was trained with a PhD from the University of Cambridge, which I completed in the year 2000. And having spent many years as a professor of artificial intelligence, starting at the University of the Witwatersrand, and ultimately as a dean and the vice chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, I think this technology is defining. It is defining because it is changing every aspect of our lives, whether it is the political aspect, whether it is the social aspect, and most importantly, it is changing the economic aspects of our lives. And of course, given all these developments that are happening around us, we who come from South Africa, and particularly coming from the African continent, cannot afford to be left behind. As Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg in 2018, I introduced a compulsory artificial intelligence course. Everybody who goes to the University of Johannesburg, certainly when I was a Vice Chancellor, was expected to complete a certificate in artificial intelligence so that when they come out, they are literate in the field of artificial intelligence. Of course, this was a literacy course. It was not a course which would allow you to develop algorithms. It was not the course that would allow you to be able to program using Python. But at the least, you were supposed to come out of this course understanding what this technology is all about, what it is doing to all aspects of our lives, and hopefully the people who have completed the course would be able to chart for themselves what this technology means for them, their careers, so that they can fully participate in this technology. Now, what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is a technology that makes machines intelligent. They're intelligent because they can be able to do tasks that normally would require human brain to be able to process. I have often talked about how I came to artificial intelligence. I came to artificial intelligence almost by accident. But the first person to actually stimulate my interest in artificial intelligence, even though it was not direct, was actually my grandmother. My grandmother was an organic engineer. She used to make all sorts of things and sell them. For example, she would make meds and she would sell them. Another thing that she would make was she would grow tobacco and then she would ground it into snuff and sell that. She also used to brew alcohol, mtomboti in Venda. And also she used to brew that illegal alcohol called tototo, which is really distilled alcohol. It was illegal at the time because Africans were not allowed to brew beer that is, or alcohol that is colorless. One thing that she would do that stimulated my interest in artificial intelligence is that she used to make clay pots. And I would actually accompany her to the river so that she can choose the appropriate clay so that she can make a pot. Of course, that process is called material selection. Just a few weeks ago, I have issued a policy brief on how to select materials. For whatever you want to do with materials, you might be selecting materials so that you can make a car, or you might want to select materials so that you can actually make a computer or a cell phone, whatever the reason is. The process of sitting down and looking at materials and selecting the appropriate materials is an important one. And of course, in our case as the United Nations, we believe that when you select the materials, you should select them so that they conform to the principles of sustainable development, so that they can conform to the principles of reducing the carbon footprint. My grandmother used to obviously select the clay, and I've often wondered whether in a selection of the clay, the idea of sustainability was part of the deal. But nonetheless, she selected the material very well. At engineering schools, and I will single out Mr. Seaborn and Ashby from the University of Cambridge for developing a software that would select materials. And today, such softwares are empowered with artificial intelligence. And of course, my grandmother would bring back the clay and make it into a pot. A pot is a complicated structure. It is complicated because it is hollow. If the walls of the pots are too thick, then you require much more energy to actually cook. If it is too thin, it's going to break too easily. And that process of identifying the absolute optimal thickness of the walls of the pots involves something called optimization. And optimization is actually at the core of artificial intelligence. In fact, there are many optimization algorithms that are AI-based, and I will single out simulated annealing, for example. My grandmother was able to know the appropriate thickness of her pots, not necessarily with the benefit of artificial intelligence, but she had all the wisdom to be able to do that. And after that, my grandmother will put those pots into the sun so that they can be dried. Of course, after they are dried, they are not strong enough. The issue of material integrity that we teach in engineering, testing for strength, testing for tensile tensions, compression tensions, are now standard tools that are used in AI. in engineering. And of course, my grandmother did not know any of those techniques, but she organically knew what to do. And thereafter, she will put her pot into the fire. She will heat it so hard, so hot, that her eyes would be red because of the reflection of the heat, the heating of the pots in her eyes. And after that, she will allow the pots to cool down, and she will knock each pot and listen to the sound. If the sound is long, it's a good pot. If the sound is short, it's a bad pot. Of course, when we go to engineering class, if the sound is long, then it is a lightly damped structure. If the sound is short, it means there might be some fluid that is trapped on the walls of the pot, and therefore it's a bad pot. And of course, as time went on, my grandmother was throwing away good pots because her hearing was actually deteriorating. And of course, that process is what I did my PhD at Cambridge on. How do you knock a structure, whether it is the engine of the car, and you listen to the sound, then you take that sound into an artificial intelligence algorithm. And the algorithm will tell you whether the engine of a car is good or not. And this process has now been extended to monitoring patients in hospitals, monitoring the structures of aeroplanes, the monitoring bridges so that they cannot collapse. And of course, this process is industrialized because instead of people listening to the sound of structures as my grandmother would often do, we would have measuring devices such as accelerometers, and we would be able to invoke artificial intelligence to be able to do that. This is really what artificial is all about. Now, it is changing absolutely everything around us. It's changing the world of work because you can be able to use it to automate industries. And that automation process actually is putting people out of their jobs. What is to be done? What is to be done so that artificial intelligence benefits are maximized and its risks, such as the risk of job losses, are actually minimized? This is what we term the governance of artificial intelligence. The Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres, has appointed a committee called the High Level Advisory Board on Artificial Intelligence that is going to come up with the governance of this artificial intelligence. When we talk about governance, we have to govern things that we are supposed to use to deploy artificial intelligence. And as we build the skills of artificial intelligence, we need to know what are those skills. Artificial intelligence is really about four things. First is about data. And my grandmother used to get that data by knocking the pots and listening to the sound. The second aspect is algorithms. Algorithms are computer programs that are designed to be able to instruct a computer to think intelligently. And there are many algorithms, multi-layer perceptron, machine learning, the algorithms, and so on and so forth. We need to educate people to understand that, as much as we need to educate people to understand data. And the third aspect is about computing. Because you can have the algorithm if you don't have access to computing. And when you are talking about large language models like ChatGPT, you're talking about very expensive computing. And of course, quite a few years ago, I had a PhD student, Rendani Mbuva, who is now a professor at the University of London, And he was deploying artificial intelligence, and it required computational power, computing. And for us to be able to do that, we had to go to Amazon Web Services to buy computing power, very expensive. Later on, we realized that the CSIR actually has high performance computing capabilities that we can be able to use to build offerings that we can actually be able to sell to the markets. And the last aspect of artificial intelligence is really about applications. How do we apply it to African languages so that we can have our own African versions of ChatGPT or our own versions of Siri? How do we apply this technology in medical health so that the patients can get the benefit of an algorithm that does not get tired, as opposed to a human doctor whose effectiveness is influenced by their mood, how long they have slept, and they often get tired. And their accuracy, in many ways now, is becoming less than the accuracy of artificial intelligence. Now, going back to the issue of governance, when we govern artificial intelligence, what we really mean is that we are going to govern data, and the governing of data means data collection, data analysis, data storage, and ultimately data sharing, cross-border data sharing, sharing data amongst business partners, and so on and so forth. The second aspect is governing algorithms. We know too well that these AI algorithms actually discriminate against people of African descent, and we need to design them so that they observe the principles of human rights. We need to ensure that these algorithms are designed well, they are trained well, they are tested well, so that their benefits are maximized and their risks are minimized. And the third aspect of governing is really about governing computing. And when we talk about computing, we get very, very quickly into semiconductors. There were global wars over who has access to graphical processing units, semiconductors that are powering technologies such as ChatGPT and so on and so forth. And Africa should not be left behind. And Africa is being left behind. As the youth of the African continent, you have the responsibility to ensure that the African continent is absolutely not left behind. And the only way you can be able to do that is by studying, and studying very, very hard. And of course, when we come to the governance of computing, we have to worry about issues of cloud computing versus edge computing. In Africa, the clouds are not in the African continent. They are in Silicon Valley, which basically means the response time for us is slower than the response times of people who are in the global north, giving the people in the global north and a distinct advantage, a competitive advantage that they can use economically to undermine our progress. So, and then lastly is the issue of governing applications. How do we regulate AI in health, in transportation, in our banking systems, and so on and so forth? Now, how do we do that? I think firstly, we need to establish the values of AI. What are these values? I think AI must actually become transparent. It must be open. We need to know what it is doing so that when it is used to determine whether a customer in a bank gets a loan or not, there is an explanation when they don't get a loan, for example. We call that transparency. It needs to be safe. It needs to be secure. Especially when it is using personal data. People's personal data must actually be secured. And of course, this AI system must actually maximize the benefits and minimize the bad. Those are the values of AI. Secondly, we need to change human behavior towards AI. Who are the humans as far as AI is concerned? These are the users. These are the business people, women and men who are developing this technology. These are government agencies that are adopting this technology. And how do we change the behavior of those people? Through education. So that example that I gave at the beginning of this talk of making AI literacy compulsory, as we did at the University of Johannesburg, is absolutely necessary and must be promoted. The second aspect is actually the mechanism of incentives and disincentives. How do we incentivize small and medium enterprises to apply this technology to improve their productivity? How do we disincentivize those sinister people who are going to use this technology to generate fake news, to confuse people, to undermine the security of people, personal information violation using AI? And then the third aspect is to develop policies and regulations. And these policies and regulations can happen at the international level, as the high-level advisory board of the Secretary General of the UN is trying, is doing. It can happen at the continental level, as the African Union is doing. It can happen at the national level, as the Fourth Industrial Revolution Commission, which I deputized President Ramaphosa, did. And the task team that was appointed by the Ministry of Communications and Digital Technologies with Professor Vukosi Maribate as chair is doing. And then is standards and laws. These necessarily mean the people that we send to our parliaments must be literate. This means the South African Bureau of Standards must actually elevate itself to understand these technologies so that they can create standards for AI goods, as they have done for goods that are imported. Currently, that expertise does not exist. And it's a challenge to the youth who are listening to this to go out there and ensure that you can create companies that will assist organizations such as the South African Bureau of Standards to be able to do that. And ultimately, it's about building institutions to regulate this technology. These institutions can be in the society in general. They can be part of the government regulatory framework. They can be industry specific. The health sector might have its own regulatory processes. And ultimately, in conclusion, whether we are going to succeed in this technology or not will depend on you. It will depend on what you do. If I were to quote our ancestor, Kwame Nkrumah, like never before, we need thinkers of great thoughts. Like never before, we need doers of great deeds. Study, learn, and advance the interests of the African people. Ndiyalibuwa, ngiyabonga, enkosi. A good day, ladies and gentlemen. Sunny
So I think Prof has said a mouthful. Thank you so much for that. And I think we are also challenged as an African youth. This is definitely a challenge, and we know that we are faced with a rather disconcerting task of leading the social emancipation program to its logical conclusion. I think Prof has said a mouthful. We will also make sure that his address is on our platforms, the various platforms, and YouTube as well. Kim will just share the link shortly. I think he said a mouthful. I think if anybody wants to contest what Professor said, would just be clutching straws. But I think what Professor said is very profound. Thank you so much. So we will now have closing remarks by Mr. Luvo Gray, who is the president of the National Youth ICT Council. Thank you.
Am I audible, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, and as a young person, allow me to say all protocol observed, but also allow me to send a special greetings to the Director General of the Department of Communications in South Africa, DG Gianni. As we draw our webinar, on youth and artificial intelligence to a close, I am filled with a sense of optimism and excitement about the future that we are creating together. Today, we have delved into the transformative power of artificial intelligence. We've explored its potential, and we've discussed the pivotal role that young people can play in shaping its trajectory. AI is not just a tool, it is a beacon of innovation, a catalyst for change, and a testament to the limitless potential of human ingenuity. As young leaders, we stand at the forefront of this technological revolution, armed with creativity, passion, and a vision for a better tomorrow. We have the unique opportunity to harness artificial intelligence for the greater good, to solve pressing global challenges, and to drive progress in ways that were once unimaginable, particularly in our continent. But with great power comes great responsibility. It is also our duty to ensure that the development and the deployment of AI are guided by ethical principles, inclusivity, and a commitment to improving the lives of all people. Let us remember the words of former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan, who once said, "Young people should be at the forefront of global change and innovation. Empowered, they can be key agents for development and peace." This quote, ladies and gentlemen, resonates deeply as we embrace the possibilities that AI offers us. In closing, I urge each and every one of you to continue exploring, learning, and innovating. Let us collaborate, share knowledge, and support each other in our endeavors. Together, we can create a future where technology and humanity coexist harmoniously, where artificial intelligence serves as a force for good, and where the youth lead the way in building a brighter, more equitable world. Thank you to our speakers, Professor Chilidzi, Juanita Clark, Kuma, Esa, Ruth, and Isa. And thank you to the organizing committee led by Kim, our CEO, Alu, our spokesperson, and Bongegile, our chair. And thank you to all attendees for your participation, your insights, and your unwavering commitment to advancing the field of artificial intelligence. Let us go forth with determination and hope, knowing that the future is in our hands. The hour of the youth has struck. Thank you very much. And don't forget to join the National Youth ICT Council.